The humans had been traveling through the dark stretch of space for months. Their ship moved quietly, almost like a shadow drifting through the stars. The crew was tired but alert, scanning every planet that came into view. They had explored hundreds of worlds, many of them lifeless, but something about this particular system felt different. There was a strange energy on the readings, subtle but persistent, almost like a heartbeat hidden beneath the emptiness. When they landed on the surface, the first thing they noticed was how quiet everything was. There was no wind, no birds, no signs of the usual chaos of life that humans expected. The landscape was jagged, with sharp rocks and small valleys, but scattered among them were signs of intelligence. Strange structures built from materials humans had never seen before rose from the ground in ways that looked organic, like they had grown rather than been made. At first, the humans thought they were alone. They explored slowly, careful not to destroy anything. Every step felt like walking into a dream, where the rules of reality were just slightly different. Then in a hidden valley behind a cluster of crystalline rocks, they saw movement. Small figures were moving quickly, almost too fast to follow. They were humanoid but different, thin, delicate, with skin that seemed to shimmer in the weak sunlight. Their eyes were large and dark, filled with curiosity but also a deep wariness. The humans froze. They had expected many things, but not this. They had never encountered a race that had been so carefully hidden from the rest of the galaxy. The aliens did not speak at first. They watched from a distance, unsure whether these newcomers were a threat or another predator. The humans understood instinctively that the first moments were the most dangerous. One wrong move, one loud sound, and the fragile trust they needed to build could vanish forever. Slowly, one human stepped forward. Hands open, body relaxed, every gesture meant to show peace. The alien hesitated, then tilted its head, studying this creature that looked so different but seemed not to carry immediate danger. It was a quiet negotiation without words, between two species who had never met but shared the same basic understanding: survival. Over the next few days, the humans stayed at the edge of the valley. They did not rush. They left food in small piles, careful to avoid startling the aliens, and observed from a distance. Gradually, the aliens grew bolder. One came closer than the others, studying the humans with its large eyes. It moved in small, careful steps, showing trust but still ready to flee at any moment. The humans mirrored the gestures, crouching, speaking softly, showing patience. It was a slow dance of recognition, a fragile thread of connection forming across the vast difference between species. During this time, the humans began to learn. They noticed how the aliens moved, how they communicated with each other using soft tones and subtle gestures. Every action had meaning, every glance a message. It was clear that these beings were intelligent and aware, but they had lived in hiding for generations. They had no weapons, no shields, no technology beyond the simple tools their environment allowed. Every other civilization had ignored them, seeing them as insignificant. The humans, however, saw something different. They saw potential, curiosity, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving against impossible odds. One evening, under the pale light of a distant sun, one of the aliens approached the humans completely. No hesitation this time, no hidden retreats. It came close enough to touch the edge of a human's hand, feeling warmth, softness, and the steady heartbeat beneath. The humans did not flinch. They understood that this small act of trust was monumental. It was a signal. The alien had chosen them, at least tentatively, as allies or friends. From that moment, everything changed. The humans began to speak, slowly, using gestures and sounds, trying to bridge the gap between species. The aliens responded in their own way, sometimes imitating, sometimes teaching. It was not easy. Misunderstandings happened often, and both sides sometimes became frustrated. But the humans had patience, and the aliens had a desire to survive and learn. Together, they began forming a fragile understanding, a bond that could grow into something more. As the first part of their journey ended, the humans looked at the valley in awe. They were the first outsiders to witness this hidden race, the first to recognize them as a living, breathing civilization that had been forgotten by the galaxy, and they made a silent promise to themselves. They would protect these beings no matter what it took. They would not let history repeat itself. The aliens watched silently from the shadows, unsure yet hopeful. For the first time in many generations, they were seen. For the first time, they felt that the universe had not entirely abandoned them. The humans stayed on the edge of the valley for weeks, carefully observing the aliens. Each day they learned something new. How the aliens communicated, for instance, was unlike anything humans had encountered before. They did not have words in the way humans understood, but their tones, gestures, and even subtle changes in color on their skin conveyed meaning. A flicker of light along their arms could mean curiosity. A slight lowering of their heads could indicate fear. The humans were fascinated. Slowly, the humans began to mimic these gestures, trying to communicate in a way the aliens could understand. It was clumsy at first. The aliens would tilt their heads or step back, unsure if the humans were joking, threatening, or simply confused. But over time, a pattern emerged. The aliens started responding, testing the humans' patience and sincerity. It was a slow process, requiring observation, trial, and sometimes failure, but it was working. The humans were learning the alien language without words, and the aliens were learning to trust these strange visitors. During this time, the humans also discovered the aliens' daily routines. They noticed how the creatures gathered food, how they built simple shelters, and how they cared for one another. Despite their small size and delicate appearance, the aliens were resilient. They had survived countless threats, both natural and predatory, and had learned to adapt. Humans watched in awe as the aliens repaired damaged structures with precision, shared food without hesitation, and comforted one another during moments of fear. This was a society built on cooperation and quiet strength. The humans began to realize that the aliens were not weak, as many civilizations might assume. Their physical strength was limited, yes, but their intelligence, creativity, and empathy were remarkable. They had survived by using their minds, understanding their environment, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. They had no weapons, yet they were clever in defense, using camouflage, speed, and strategy to hide from danger. The humans began to feel a deep respect for these beings, a recognition that intelligence and strength were not always measured by technology or size. As trust grew, the aliens allowed the humans closer. One of the smaller aliens even followed a human around for a short time, studying every movement with curiosity. The humans named it Flicker, because of the subtle lights along its skin that changed with its mood. Flicker became the first bridge between the two species, showing the other aliens that these humans were not a threat. Gradually, more aliens came closer, some observing silently, others testing small interactions. By now, humans and aliens could sit near one another without fear, sharing the same space, breathing the same air. The humans also began to notice the alien society's history, written in symbols on walls and etched into the environment. These symbols told stories of survival, loss, and resilience. They described generations of aliens who had faced natural disasters, invasions by predators, and the harshness of a planet that offered little for survival. Each story was simple but powerful, a reminder of how fragile life could be and how strong determination could make it. Humans documented these symbols carefully, wanting to preserve the knowledge of this overlooked race for both study and protection. One day, while exploring a hidden cave, a human found something remarkable. Inside, the walls were covered with drawings and carvings that suggested a deep understanding of energy and natural systems. The aliens had discovered ways to channel the planet's energy to grow food, purify water, and even heal minor injuries. Humans realized that this knowledge was far beyond what they had expected. The aliens had been surviving in secrecy, but they had learned secrets about their world that even advanced civilizations could not understand. This was a treasure trove of knowledge, and humans knew they had to protect it. Over time, a bond formed that went beyond curiosity. The aliens began to share their world openly, showing humans secret paths, hidden water sources, and places of rest. In return, humans shared simple technologies to make life easier, like better tools for farming and safe shelters. There was laughter and play, though it was quiet and subtle. Humans began to understand the aliens' emotions more clearly. Joy, fear, hope, and sorrow were expressed in ways unique to their kind but universally understandable. But even as trust grew, humans knew danger was near. They could sense the universe's eyes on this planet. Other civilizations would never ignore it forever. This knowledge did not make the humans fearful. It made them determined. They knew they had a responsibility to protect this fragile society, to ensure that the aliens could survive and flourish without being exploited. The humans began to form plans, quietly discussing strategies and imagining ways to help the aliens defend themselves without causing harm. By the end of this period, humans had become part of the alien world. They were not rulers, nor were they saviors in the traditional sense. They were allies, friends, and guardians. And for the aliens, humans had become the first outsiders who had truly seen them, not as insignificant beings, not as curiosities to be studied, but as a civilization worthy of respect and protection. Flicker and the other aliens often gathered around the humans at night, observing stars together in silence. No words were needed. The quiet companionship spoke louder than anything. The humans had learned patience, humility, and the power of empathy. The aliens had learned that the universe might not be entirely cruel, that some beings could be trusted, and that their existence mattered. In this shared understanding, both humans and aliens began to imagine a future where they could coexist, where the fragile could be protected, and where overlooked life could find hope. And even though the larger galaxy remained unaware, a small corner of the universe had already changed, quietly but profoundly, because humans had chosen to care. The quiet valley where the humans and the aliens lived peacefully did not remain hidden for long. Scanners aboard the human ship detected distant signals approaching, a fleet from a neighboring civilization that had heard rumors of life on this small, overlooked planet. Unlike the humans, these visitors were not curious or friendly. Their purpose was clear. They saw the aliens as weak, an easy target for exploitation or control. The humans gathered the alien leaders to explain the situation. At first, the aliens did not understand the threat. They had spent generations hiding, and the concept of a violent civilization interested in taking what they had never even imagined seemed impossible. The humans spoke patiently, showing them through gestures, maps, and simulations what could happen if the newcomers arrived. Fear flickered across the aliens' faces, their skin changing color, their bodies trembling slightly, but the humans remained calm, offering reassurance. Over the next few days, the humans worked tirelessly to prepare the valley for protection. They did not bring weapons to the aliens' hands. Instead, they focused on using the terrain to their advantage. Hidden paths, narrow cliffs, and dense vegetation could be turned into natural defenses. They taught the aliens to move silently, to hide quickly, and to use their environment to confuse and slow invaders. The aliens were quick learners, adapting strategies instinctively, guided by instincts honed over generations of survival. The humans also began to strengthen their own defenses. They set up observation points using technology to monitor incoming ships and predict their movements. They installed shields over critical areas and created small hidden refuges for the aliens to retreat to if necessary. Every precaution was taken with care. The humans did not want to frighten the aliens, only to give them a chance to survive without panic. As the first ships entered the system, tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. The aliens hid, watching the humans closely. The humans in turn maintained calm, showing that fear would not control them. They had learned from experience that the aliens would take cues from their behavior. If the humans panicked, the aliens would panic too. But if the humans remained focused, the aliens would gain courage. The approaching civilization did not try to communicate peacefully. Their ships landed aggressively and scouts moved quickly, searching for signs of life. When they saw the humans and aliens together, they underestimated the bond between the two species. They assumed the humans would retreat, leaving the aliens defenseless. They were wrong. The humans led the defense with careful precision. They did not fight with brute force, but with strategy and intelligence. Using decoys, false trails, and hidden barriers, they delayed the invaders while keeping the aliens safe. The aliens watched in awe as the humans acted not out of anger or hatred, but out of determination to protect life. Slowly, the aliens began to take part, using their unique abilities to aid in the defense. Subtle energy manipulations, invisible to the invaders, created confusion and hesitation among the attackers. Even though the aliens had never fought before, their trust in the humans gave them courage. They began moving with confidence, following instructions and protecting vulnerable areas. Together, humans and aliens created a defensive system that the invaders could not predict. Every day was tense, every night filled with the fear that the next wave of attackers could overwhelm them. Yet through it all, humans remained patient, teaching the aliens that fear could be turned into focus, and weakness into clever strategy. During this time, the humans also began to communicate with other friendly civilizations quietly. They sought allies who could help if the threat escalated. They explained the situation without revealing too much about the aliens' secrets. It was a delicate balance. Too much exposure could put the aliens in more danger, but isolation could lead to their destruction. Humans worked behind the scenes, coordinating, planning, and preparing for every possible scenario. Despite the threat, life continued in small moments. The humans shared stories with the aliens, teaching them about distant worlds and civilizations. The aliens, in turn, taught the humans about their planet. Hidden water sources, unusual plants, and secret paths that could be used to avoid danger. These exchanges strengthened their bond, showing both sides that trust and understanding were as important as any defense strategy. The first major confrontation came when a small strike team from the invading civilization tried to sneak into the valley. The humans anticipated this and had prepared carefully. Using the environment, clever traps, and the aliens' abilities, they were able to stop the intruders without harming them unnecessarily. The aliens watched, amazed at how their allies could defend without cruelty, using intelligence and patience instead of brute force. It was a lesson in courage and restraint, one the aliens would never forget. By the end of this tense period, both humans and aliens realized something important. They had survived not because of strength alone, but because of trust, understanding, and cooperation. The aliens had discovered that humans could be allies in the truest sense, protectors who would not abandon them, even when danger loomed. And the humans had learned that even a fragile, overlooked race could contribute greatly when given guidance and support. Still, the humans knew the threat was far from over. The invading civilization would return, larger and more determined unless the galaxy itself intervened. They began to plan for the long term, thinking not only about defense but about the survival and future growth of this hidden civilization. The humans knew that protecting the aliens would require patience, courage, and careful strategy, and they were ready to give everything they had. As the sun set over the jagged valley, humans and aliens stood together, looking out at the horizon. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying a quiet sense of hope. For the first time, the aliens felt that they were not alone in the universe. For the first time, they felt safe enough to imagine a future. And for the humans, the promise of protection was not just a duty. It had become a purpose, one that would guide them through the dangers yet to come. After the first threats passed, the humans realized that defending the aliens was not enough. They needed a place where the aliens could live safely without fear of sudden attacks. The valley, though hidden and protective, was limited. They began planning a safe haven, a place that could survive attacks, provide food and water, and allow the aliens to thrive. The humans started by observing the land carefully. They studied the hills, rivers, and forests, noting areas that could be used for shelter, farming, and energy collection. The aliens guided them too, showing secret caves, underground springs, and hidden clearings that humans would never have noticed on their own. Every day brought new discoveries, and slowly, a map of the perfect settlement began to form. Building the safe haven was a collaboration. Humans brought technology, but they were careful not to dominate the project. They introduced tools for construction, ways to gather and purify water, and methods to grow food more efficiently. The aliens contributed their knowledge of the land, energy manipulation, and natural materials. Together, they created structures that blended into the environment, strong enough to withstand storms and attacks but gentle enough to preserve the planet's beauty. The work was hard, and progress was slow. Every stone moved, every structure built, required patience and cooperation. Humans taught the aliens to use simple tools, while the aliens taught humans to work with natural energy, using it to reinforce walls, purify water, and even create light without electricity. It was a slow learning process for both sides, but with each small success, the bond between humans and aliens grew stronger. The aliens learned to trust human judgment, and humans learned to respect the aliens' instincts. They shared meals, worked side by side, and even began to celebrate small victories together, finishing a shelter, planting the first crop, or discovering a new water source. For the aliens, these moments were extraordinary. They had spent generations hiding and surviving, but now they were building, learning, and growing with companions who genuinely cared for them. Humans also introduced ways to protect the settlement without violence. They built observation posts hidden in trees and hills, small barriers along vulnerable paths, and signaling systems to alert everyone if danger approached. The aliens, in return, taught them natural camouflage techniques and subtle energy manipulations that could confuse potential attackers. It was not just about defense, it was about creating harmony, making a place that could remain hidden yet ready if needed. One of the most important lessons humans taught was about leadership and decision-making. The aliens had lived in small groups following instinct and necessity, but now they needed to coordinate on a larger scale. Humans guided them gently, helping them organize tasks, share responsibilities, and make decisions as a community. Slowly, the aliens began to take initiative, suggesting improvements, solving problems, and even developing new ways to use their natural abilities in the settlement. At night, after long days of building, humans and aliens would gather to share stories. The aliens spoke of their ancestors, of past dangers, and of the ways they had survived. The humans shared tales from distant worlds, explaining how civilizations worked, how people overcame challenges, and why cooperation could be more powerful than conflict. These quiet evenings built trust, understanding, and a shared vision of the future. As the settlement grew, humans noticed changes in the aliens. They seemed stronger, more confident, and less fearful. The energy of hope replaced the constant tension of survival. Even the younger aliens, who had known nothing but hiding, began exploring safely, learning from humans and elders alike. They were curious, playful, and eager to learn. Humans encouraged this curiosity, knowing that it would help the aliens grow into a resilient and self-sufficient society. Despite these positive changes, humans remained vigilant. They knew that other civilizations could still discover the planet, and danger could return at any time. They taught the aliens to remain cautious without living in fear, emphasizing observation, preparedness, and quick thinking. These lessons were subtle but vital. The aliens began to understand that strength came not just from hiding or fleeing, but from knowledge, planning, and teamwork. Over time, the safe haven became more than just a protected place. It became a community. Humans and aliens worked together to plant gardens, create clean water systems, and build safe spaces for rest and gathering. They even started small cultural exchanges, teaching songs, dances, and stories that reflected the unique blend of their worlds. The aliens began to express themselves more openly, sharing ideas and emotions that had been hidden for generations. The humans noticed that the aliens' energy abilities were evolving too. They could now manipulate small environmental factors with precision, helping crops grow, keeping water clean, and even creating natural light in dark areas. The humans were careful to guide them responsibly, showing how these abilities could be used without harm, and the aliens quickly understood the importance of balance and caution. By the end of this period, the safe haven was almost complete. It was hidden, strong, and sustainable. It was a place where the aliens could live freely, explore their potential, and grow as a society. Humans were proud, not because they had created it alone, but because they had helped the aliens create something lasting for themselves. The relationship between humans and aliens had changed fundamentally. They were no longer strangers. They were allies, teachers, learners, and friends. Together, they had faced fear, built trust, and created a future that neither species could have imagined alone. The humans understood that their role was not to dominate, but to protect and guide, ensuring that the aliens could thrive safely in a dangerous universe. As the sun set over the valley, the safe haven stood as a testament to cooperation, patience, and hope. Humans and aliens watched together, sharing a quiet sense of accomplishment. For the first time, the aliens could imagine a life without constant fear, a life where they could grow, learn, and explore, and the humans knew that this was only the beginning. The quiet valley that had become a safe haven did not stay peaceful for long. The humans had predicted this moment, but that did not make it any less tense. One morning, distant lights appeared on the horizon, ships from the invading civilization that had once sent a small strike team. Now they came in full force, their engines cutting through the air like distant thunder. The humans gathered the aliens quickly, explaining the situation calmly, though their own hearts raced. The aliens, though stronger and more confident than before, still had fear. They had never faced such overwhelming force. Humans reassured them, showing that fear could be controlled and turned into focus. Together they prepared. Every path, every hill, every hidden cave had been studied. Humans organized defenses without causing panic, explaining roles and strategies to the aliens. Each alien had a part to play, no matter how small, and they listened carefully. When the first ships landed, chaos could have erupted, but the humans had taught the aliens to remain calm and move with purpose. The invaders expected confusion, but they found coordinated action. Hidden barriers slowed their advance, decoys misled them, and subtle energy manipulations from the aliens created hesitation and disorientation. The invaders were not ready for a united defense that combined brains, skill, and patience. The humans led small groups of aliens to protect the most vulnerable areas. Some of the aliens acted as scouts, moving silently through forests and valleys, reporting enemy movements. Others used their abilities to manipulate the environment, creating fog, small tremors, or distractions that gave humans and allies time to react. Every action was deliberate, every movement precise. It was not brute strength that mattered. It was clever thinking and teamwork. Despite the careful planning, the invaders were relentless. They tried to force their way through, attacking in waves. Humans and aliens held their ground, retreating only when necessary and regrouping strategically. The aliens began to see the humans' courage firsthand, realizing that they would never abandon them. Their trust deepened. The humans were not just protectors. They were teachers, guides, and partners in survival. During the battle, one alien group faced a particularly dangerous challenge. A large invader squad had discovered a hidden water source vital for the settlement. Humans moved quickly, coordinating with the aliens to defend it. Using natural camouflage and energy manipulations, they created illusions of movement, confusing the attackers. Meanwhile, humans worked from hidden positions to block access and set traps that slowed the invaders without harming the environment. It was a tense struggle, but they succeeded in protecting the resource. As the conflict continued, the humans realized something important. The aliens were not just passive participants anymore. They were thinking creatively, responding instinctively, and using their unique abilities to adapt. One alien manipulated light patterns to hide entire groups of humans, while another created subtle vibrations that misled enemy sensors. Humans marveled at their ingenuity, understanding that the aliens' survival instincts, honed over generations, combined perfectly with human strategy. Hours turned into a long, exhausting day. Both humans and aliens felt fatigue, but neither gave up. They took brief moments to regroup, share water, and encourage one another. Humans comforted the young aliens, showing that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. This lesson resonated deeply, and even the smallest aliens began contributing in small but meaningful ways, leading invaders into traps or warning others of approaching danger. By evening, the humans and aliens had pushed the invaders back, but the battle was not over. They knew reinforcements could arrive at any moment. Humans gathered the alien leaders, explaining the importance of vigilance, patience, and resilience. They reinforced that victory was not just about fighting. It was about protecting life, preserving their home, and maintaining hope. The aliens listened carefully, understanding that their future depended on more than just strength. It depended on unity and trust. As night fell, a quiet calm returned to the valley. Fires burned safely in small areas, signaling life and determination. Humans and aliens shared a moment of reflection, understanding how far they had come. The aliens had learned to act with courage, use their abilities strategically, and trust another species completely. The humans had learned that even the most fragile life could be resourceful, brave, and capable of incredible creativity when supported. By the end of the battle, both humans and aliens knew they had changed. The safe haven was no longer just a hidden refuge. It was a strong, living community capable of facing threats together. They had survived not because of brute force, but because of planning, cooperation, and courage. The humans had taught the aliens to protect themselves intelligently, while the aliens had reminded the humans that wisdom and instinct were just as powerful as technology. Even as exhaustion settled in, humans and aliens began planning for the future. They strengthened defenses, reinforced structures, and practiced strategies for potential future attacks. The bond between the two species had deepened, built on shared experiences of fear, courage, and survival. The humans had fulfilled their promise to protect the aliens, but now their work went beyond protection. It was about nurturing a civilization that could finally flourish. In the quiet of the valley, under the stars, humans and aliens stood together, watching the horizon. They had faced a great danger and survived. They had discovered the strength in each other, the power of trust, and the importance of working together. The aliens felt hope for the first time in generations, and the humans felt the profound satisfaction of having made a real difference in a fragile corner of the universe. And though the larger galaxy still remained unaware, for this valley life had changed forever. Together, humans and aliens had proven that courage, intelligence, and cooperation could overcome even overwhelming odds, laying the foundation for a future filled with possibility. After the battle, the valley was quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. It was no longer tense or fearful, it was full of possibility. Humans and aliens began the next stage of their journey, building a future rather than just surviving day by day. The safe haven they had created was now stable, and the aliens had grown stronger, more confident, and ready to explore their own potential. The humans worked alongside the aliens not as rulers but as partners. They helped improve food production, creating gardens that combined human agricultural methods with the aliens' natural energy techniques. Water systems were refined, ensuring everyone had clean water, and shelters were made more comfortable without harming the environment. The aliens learned quickly, often suggesting improvements themselves. It became clear that they were not just students, they were equal contributors to their own survival and growth. Education and understanding became central. Humans taught the aliens about the wider universe, about other civilizations, and about science and strategy. The aliens in return taught humans about their energy manipulation, their understanding of the land, and their subtle ways of communicating and reading emotions. Every day was a lesson, not only in survival but in collaboration, empathy, and creativity. The younger aliens, who had grown up under the threat of danger, now had the freedom to explore safely. They ran through the forests, experimented with small energy abilities, and learned to move in harmony with the environment. Humans encouraged their curiosity, joining them at times in playful exercises that strengthened their skills and their confidence. The valley, once a place of hiding, had become a playground for learning, growth, and joy. Over time, humans began to help the aliens establish contact with other benevolent civilizations. Carefully, without revealing sensitive information, they forged alliances that ensured the aliens would no longer be ignored or left vulnerable. These alliances brought knowledge, resources, and protection, further securing the future of the valley and its inhabitants. The aliens were no longer a forgotten race. They had a place in the wider galaxy. The humans and aliens continued to improve their defenses, not for fear of attack, but as preparation and training. They developed strategies, practiced movement and communication, and tested new ways of using their combined abilities. What had once been a desperate necessity now became a form of empowerment, teaching the aliens that strength was built through understanding, not violence. But survival was not the only goal. The humans encouraged the aliens to cultivate culture, art, and storytelling. The aliens painted their history and memories in symbols, created music from subtle tones, and held small gatherings to share experiences and ideas. Humans participated, listening, learning, and sometimes sharing stories of distant worlds. These cultural exchanges created bonds not just between the species, but within the community itself. Peace, however, did not make the humans complacent. They knew the galaxy could be unpredictable and threats might return. But by now the aliens were no longer fragile. They had learned to observe, strategize, and act with confidence. Humans focused on teaching resilience, not fear, helping the aliens understand that challenges could be met with courage and intelligence. The valley had become a school of survival, but also a place of empowerment. One evening, as the twin suns set over the valley, humans and aliens stood together, looking at the thriving settlement. The aliens had grown taller, more confident, and more capable. They moved with ease, their energy abilities refined, and their minds sharp. They had learned that life was not just about hiding, but about embracing their potential while remaining cautious and wise. Humans smiled quietly, proud not of what they had done alone, but of what they had nurtured together. The bond between humans and aliens had transformed. They were no longer simply protector and protected. They were allies, friends, and co-creators of a new society. Humans had honored their promise to safeguard this forgotten race, but they had also allowed the aliens to take control of their own destiny. It was a partnership built on trust, respect, and understanding. In time, the aliens began exploring more of their world, discovering hidden valleys, rivers, and energy sources they had never dared to explore before. Humans joined them, offering guidance and support, but stepping back whenever the aliens showed independence and ingenuity. It was a delicate balance, one that required patience, humility, and observation, but it worked beautifully. The humans knew that their work would never truly be finished. Protecting a race and helping it thrive was an ongoing responsibility, but they also knew that the aliens were no longer helpless. They were capable, intelligent, and resilient. The valley had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most overlooked civilizations could survive and grow when given care, trust, and guidance. And so life continued. Days were filled with learning, building, exploring, and growing. Nights were filled with storytelling, laughter, and quiet reflection. The aliens thrived in ways they had never imagined possible, and the humans had found purpose and fulfillment in ensuring that a fragile, forgotten race had a chance to flourish. The universe outside the valley remained vast and unpredictable, but inside the small hidden world life had found balance. Humans had proven that compassion, intelligence, and patience could change the course of history. Aliens had learned to embrace their potential and trust again. Together they had created not just survival, but a future filled with hope, strength, and endless possibility. For the first time in generations, the aliens no longer felt forsaken. They had allies, a home, and a future, and the humans, having honored their promise, quietly looked on, knowing that sometimes the greatest victories were not won through war, but through protection, guidance, and the courage to care.